as NATO allies committed more powerful weapons to the conflict in the 72nd week of the war. Russia's defenses became more solid and Ukraine's counteroffensive slowed down noticeably. Despite obstacles on the battlefield, Ukrainian forces have advanced. According to the General Staff of Ukraine, its forces took control of 4 square kilometers of territory last week all around the eastern city. Since January 1st, Russian forces have taken control of 282 square kilometers across the entire theater. Nearly the same portion of territory was liberated by Ukrainian forces in just 5 weeks, as Russian forces did in more than 6 months. A commander of a Ukrainian Armed Services intelligence agency claimed that Bakhmut, which Russian forces had almost entirely occupied in early May, after the bloodiest and longest battle of the conflict, was gradually but surely returning to Ukrainian control. Hanna, the Deputy Minister of Defense for Ukraine, reported that Ukrainian forces had taken control of significant heights over Bakhmut, putting their artillery within striking distance of Russian positions inside the city. Ukraine has recently launched more artillery and unmanned aerial vehicle attacks against Russian supply bases, transportation hubs, and ammo storage facilities. These smaller operations during the daytime hours are directed against Russian strongholds, and are a part of a larger offensive, the noble objectives of which Ukraine has been open about. But if Kyiv is to succeed, the West must continue to support it. Attacks on Russian targets that could support an offensive, like infiltrations in the southern provinces of Donetsk and Kherson, have occurred, and Ukrainian armed forces have been seen transporting supplies to the front lines. According to the most recent update from the top commanders in Ukraine, every effort has been made to prevent the regular Russian army from rotating. The war may be over this year, if the required number of deployable components, such as missiles and drones, are delivered on time. The enemy's military equipment, personnel, anti-aircraft missile system, and other targets were the main targets of 5 separate attacks carried out by the Ukrainian Air Force. 3 command posts as well as a rallying point for enemy staff were the targets of rocket forces and artillery squadrons' attacks. 4 artillery guns were ready to fire, and mortar strikes were also made. A single shot eliminated every target. Russia has been compelled to respond to Ukrainian actions in the conflict with Ukraine since the beginning of July, rather than pursue its own military objectives. The most likely objectives of Moscow, including neutralizing Ukraine's upgraded air defenses and ruining Ukrainian attack formations, have gone largely unmet. According to the ministry's most recent intelligence assessment, Russia's armed forces switched from the east to the west in order to fend off vicious attacks. Invading the border region of Belgorod Oblast once more, Russian militia groups claiming to be fighting side by side with Ukraine have recently sparked fierce fighting there. The Russian High Command is getting ready to prioritize reserve forces in an area where they anticipate more of the Ukrainian counteroffensive activates. Sending inactive forces to make up for the holes on the front lines, however, is probably what has undermined this.